Who here remembers the old Leonard Nimoy show In Search Of? Show of hands. All right, most of us. For those of you born after the Carter administration, In Search Of was this documentary TV show where they investigated the mysterious and the paranormal. And as a kid growing up in the 70s, I loved this stuff. They would talk about the Bermuda Triangle and the Loch Ness Monster. And they would talk to people who were really invested in this stuff, who were looking into the facts of the situation. And they'd have recreations of historic events. And at the end of each show, Nimoy would come out and he'd say something like, "Does Bigfoot still traverse the forests of Nova Scotia? Did aliens help the ancient Egyptians build the pyramids? We may never know. But these people who we talk to tonight, they believe." And I love this stuff, like I said. And one of the things that they did is they would spend a lot of time on psychic phenomena. People who could read minds, and most important for me, people who could tell the future. This was incredibly intriguing to me, so I started doing my own research. I bought a pack of tarot cards. I tried to learn how to read palms and tea leaves. I'd come into possession of a 1923 silver dollar, and a psychic told me that I had owned that exact coin in a previous life. And that became my decision coin. When I couldn't make up on my mind about something, I'd flip the coin, and that's the way I'd go, just like Harvey Dent. As I went through my adolescence and went into high school and college, I started to learn about things like the scientific method, and Occam's razor, and confirmation bias. And as these ideas started to penetrate my psyche, I started to leave off some of the more flamboyant ideas of telling the future. And by the time I was 30, I'd really become a much more rational thinking person, making decisions based on the facts in front of me and trying to extrapolate data and work that way. And that made my life very complicated when I received a magic iPod. Now, the iPod was an engagement gift from my then fiance, now wife, and I had been coveting one of these for a while. It was 80 gigs, top of the line, and do you remember when those first generation of music players came out and you could take your entire music library with you anywhere you went? It was just so cool. One of the things I was doing to get ready for the wedding was I was exercising, trying to lose a little weight, and I would take walks during my lunch hour. And now I had my great little iPod, and I would just hit shuffle, and whatever came up, that random assortment of tunes, that was the soundtrack of that day's walk. Well, one day in late spring, I was getting ready to head out, and I noticed that it was kind of overcast, and I was worried, especially with my brand new electronic gadget. So I went online, checked to see the weather, and it was hard to say. It might rain, it might not. It was a 50-50 chance. I said to myself, you know what, just chance it. If it gets bad, you just hightail it back to the office, you'll be fine. Get downstairs, hit shuffle. And the first song that popped up was a song by Sting entitled Heavy Cloud, No Rain. Well, I kind of chuckled at that and went on my walk. Went out, half an hour, came back, not a drop, stayed dry. Really didn't think much of it until a few weeks later when I found myself in the exact same situation. Overcast skies, indeterminate weather report. Well, this time, I hit shuffle before I left to see what might pop up. You never know. The first song that came up this time was by my favorite band, a local Northern Virginia band, Eddie from Ohio. Anybody know them? Yeah? Okay, couple of edits, fantastic. And the title of this song was, And the Rain Crashed Down. I decided to skip my walk And about 15 minutes later, when I would have been as far as humanly possible from shelter, the heavens opened and the rain crashed down. For the next few weeks, I started looking for signs from my iPod. Was it going to tell me anything about the weather, bad traffic, whether I should go to McDonald's or Five Guys? I don't know. But after a few weeks, nothing came up. And I kind of kicked myself. I admonished myself. I'd gotten sucked into this by a couple of coincidences. It was silly. And I put it out of my mind. Late that summer, just as it was turning to fall, I was heading out on one of my walks, and I hit shuffle as usual. And I was a little disturbed to hear the opening notes of Billie Holiday's rendition of Stormy Weather, especially when I looked out the window and saw nothing but blue skies. Well, again, I felt chagrined. Why had I gotten sucked into this again? I headed out on my walk. And I didn't get more than about 200 or 300 yards before my iPod died on me, just completely bricked. And I stood there for a couple of minutes fiddling with it, trying to figure out, how do I fix this thing? You know, I've only had it a few months. It's my engagement gift. And I was so worked up about it that I figured, I'm just going to go back to my office, Google a solution to this, hopefully save myself a trip to the Apple Genius Bar. So I, real quick, walking into my office, and normally I would take the stairs up to the top floor where my office was, but as it happened, the elevator doors were opening. I saw the up arrow, and I dashed in. And in doing so, nearly plowed into my friend Diego. Now, Diego was a guy I'd met doing theater some years before. We worked on the same floor, but for different companies, and I hadn't seen him for a while. I apologized to him profusely, and he said, "Jack, no, I am so glad this happened. I just went by your office. I wanted to see you. I wanted to say goodbye. I'm moving to New York tomorrow. I'll probably never be in this building again." If I had stayed put in my office when Stormy Weather came on, Diego would have found me there. If my iPod had not shut down on me exactly when it was, I would have missed him. So, do I now once again look for signs and portents in the world? No. I still believe that living rationally, looking things in the eye and basing your life on fact is the better way to go. But I also believe this. Every now and again, something wondrous falls into each of our lives. Might be small, might be big. And you can't explain it. But I also believe that with these things, sometimes it doesn't require an explanation. And when these things happen to me, I think of it as a line of poetry or a little run of music, a verse from the universe. And when it happens, I just accept it with an open and uncritical heart. Thank you.